Oh my god, this is my Oprah Winfrey moment, bitch.
You better get it right.
You get a car and you get a car and you don't get a car, sorry guys.
I think I had a dream that I could drive.
My favourite one is the dream of you with the alien parents and shit.
Alien?
Yeah, the other day.
It wasn't alien. I went to an alien planet because my mum was in prison.
We need to get her writing some scripts, guys. Just saying. Hi guys, Kyle from Post Sanity here again, and today we have a very special guest, a very, very wonderful, amazing human person, and also a very close and inner circle bestie friendly of mine. Knows me most probably the best out of most people in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary pals, Tolu, aka Lula.
Hi.
Hi. So, why are you here today? I forgot. Why? Because, I have ADHD.
I'm just here to have a conversation.
A conversation
Just
about...
a conversation.
About what?
Just about feelings.
So, I mean, I have been diagnosed with ADHD. And recently, we had a conversation, like last year.
It's probably around November. I
Yeah.
think.
Where you were like, I can't concentrate. Like, this is dramatization. This is a reenactment, but dramatization. I can't concentrate. I just really stressing me out, and I don't know what to do. And I was like, everything you've said to me are things that I've identified within myself when I got diagnosed with ADHD. So around that time, obviously, that was just me kind of going, I think that might be. But when do you think you were like, okay, no, I need to get a diagnosis for ADHD?
Well, you say that was when it happened, but my memory of thinking, okay, I probably need to go talk to somebody was when we were in Peckham.
Yep.
And we were on a walk. And I just spent the last 5 minutes interrupting you to point out random stuff on the street. And you were like, you just stopped me and you were like, you have ADHD. And I was like, no, I don't. But prior to that, I had been coming to you to talk about how I was feeling at work and the fact that I couldn't concentrate a lot of the time. And I think you probably did say you have ADHD, but I didn't clock it at the time. I don't remember it.
I only remember it because it was on our infamous video calls. And I remember, it's just because photographic memory, considering. I just got, and I just remember seeing your face being like, does not compute. Like, what? What are you saying to me? I was like, sounds like you have what I have, honey, because obviously, master awesomeness of absolute attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, guys. Just to clarify, ADHD stands for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. For the assessment for ADHD, you need to basically kind of reflect over everything. So schoolwork as a child, like when you get into secondary school, all of these different areas, what it's like at work, and really, for me as an adult, why are you asking me what I was like at school? This is it applies, but it's hard. But what was it like reflecting back on your life? This is your life with ADHD for free.
It was pretty tough, not gonna lie, because I didn't even think I had ADHD in the first place.
Same.
When you first mentioned it to me, I was a bit like, this guy's full of it. Because I've talked to people with ADHD in the past, and then obviously because you're curious, you ask questions because you want to learn more about that person. So I met this one girl in France when I was doing my exchange year, and she was talking about her symptoms for ADHD, and I was like, wow, that must be crazy. That must be so weird to have those symptoms. And now, 2-3 years later, I recognise those same symptoms in me, and it's bizarre.
But it's only when when you're made aware of it.
Yeah.
That you're like,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
Because that's what happened when I was
that's exactly what happened to me, because they ask you to fill out a little questionnaire, and they ask you to kind of cross-check things that you do often or very often or sometimes that could be related to ADHD. And I remember the first time I filled it out, all of the answers were like often, because I hadn't really done a lot of thinking about it. And then the longer the process went on, because I went to my GP in November. You should never do something like for the lols.
For the lols.
For the lols.
Me and you have talked about this.
I was already talking to my doctor about something else, and I was like, it can't hurt to go and check if this is something I may have, because at that point I didn't think I had it.
No.
But obviously,
cross it off the list.
Yeah, you might as well check just to be sure. But yes, so since that time I had to do more forms. So the first one was, I can't remember the name of it, but it gives you a list, and if you meet the criteria for a certain amount of them, where it's often or very often, or sometimes it's kind of shaded to give you a score sheet, then you meet the criteria for a diagnosis. And then when you're waiting for the diagnosis, they have you fill 2 forms that you mentioned earlier, the self-report and then the informant report. And they ask you things like, do you fidget a lot when you're supposed to be still, or are you really forgetful, or do you put tasks off?
What I found really interesting about the questions, and we did talk about this, is are they, like for me it was definitely, like it was always they. So it was like, because I'm an informant. And I even said to you, I was like, this sounds like a parent. Like these are questions you ask a parent. Because it's like, do they sit down when they know in society they should be sat still? And it's like, why are you bringing like societal rules into this for an adult who's getting diagnosis?
With ADHD, it's only recently that people are recognising that it can be present in adults, because there's a stereotype that it's only present in boys. There's this stereotype of this hyperactive little boys who interrupt in class all the time and who make trouble. So as a girl, I think it's less noticeable. I watched a webinar a few weeks ago by ADHD Europe, and there's symptoms that are less noticeable in women than in men. So it kind of takes somebody who's knowledgeable about the subject to point it out to you, because it's not taught in schools. Teachers don't teach you about mental health and what kind of symptoms you may have. A lot of parents don't get taught about that kind of stuff. But yeah, the questions. Let's get back off this tangent.
No, but this is a good tangent to have, and it's bringing up natural ideas of what it's like to be in the shoe and of someone who's going through it.
Yeah.
And like one thing for me, another thing, right? Sidebar, is I was like, I didn't realise I was the only informant. I thought there were others. That's why I was taking my sweet time.
Yeah.
But then when I realised that you had asked me, I felt honoured, because to be that for someone, like to be that, like, you have not got it together. Like it's like a bittersweet kind of like, yes, I will help you prove that you are not neurotypical. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
well, to be fair, like you're the person I've talked to most about it, mainly because a lot of my friends, they're going through stuff right now, so they haven't had the capacity to help me and support me through this, but also mainly because you have ADHD as well. So it's easier to talk to you about it because you actually understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned that I may have it to my brother, and he was like, "Oh, just concentrate harder." And I was like, "Okay, you need to shut up." Yeah. Like, how can you tell somebody to concentrate? I put so much energy. I spend like a year and a half concentrating harder. And it's so mentally draining. Do not tell me just to concentrate harder. I've been trying to concentrate. But anyway, I digress. We were talking about...
No. Don't worry.
No, I want to answer the question because it's stuck in my brain.
Go.
We were talking about looking...
reflecting over your life and realising.
Over my life.
And
realising what kind of experiences were linked to ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
That was a long-ass tangent. ADHD.
We love a long-ass tangent. We stand a long-ass tangent.
It was really weird because they ask you in these forms, the self-informant forms, self-report forms and the informant forms, they ask you to answer those questions relating to the symptoms.
Which I guess and no, and then provide
yeah,
examples.
So they told me that I had to submit the form 3 weeks before the diagnosis, which I haven't had yet. So I spent basically a month thinking about past examples of my childhood and present examples during adulthood. And at first I was like, okay, there's a couple of examples. But then the longer I thought, the more examples came to me. And I spent a weekend going through my old school books and my journals. And there was message after message from my teachers to my parents in my journal that you're supposed to give them every week.
Yep.
Where they were like, Tolu hasn't done her homework, detention. Tolu was late to school, detention. Tolu forgot her equipment for this class, detention. Tolu wasn't paying attention in class. Tolu didn't put a lot of effort into this work. You can do harder. Mainly because I would always leave things to the last minute because I procrastinate. So I'm looking back at these journals and my workbooks from school, and I'm like, to me now, who's done a lot of research into ADHD and what symptoms are present in somebody who has ADHD, it's glaringly obvious to me that there's a problem. As a child, it's glaringly obvious that there's a problem. But during parent-teacher meetings, they would just say, oh, Mary talks too much, Mary doesn't concentrate a lot, da-da-da-da-da. Looking back on it, maybe the idea was that I was not disciplined enough, or not self-discipline.
Okay.
Or I was lazy.
Well,
don't call me lazy. I'm not lazy. I have ADHD. But,
I have taught you well. The student has become the mark.
I think that was like the general idea, that like I wasn't self-disciplined and I was lazy. But there comes a point where like teachers and parents need to be educated on this kind of stuff, because I've talked to people who've only just got their diagnosis and they're in their late 70s. One, because ADHD has only just recently gotten more recognition and people are actually learning more about it and taking it more seriously and recognizing that it can be present in adults and it can be present in females.
I mean, it's weird to think that this has gone so unnoticed. Like something that's so prevalent, and like if a child in your class has ADHD diagnosed when they're a child, like I remember this clear as day at secondary school. I've been thinking about it recently. I was like, there was one student in my class, like in my year, that was like in different classes every time, that he had ADHD.
Yeah.
And it was like, the teachers kind of went, ADHD, like as if it's an excuse and it's allowing him to have that behavior, rather than kind of like, right, encourage him to try and like, just like, I know it's hard, but right, let's focus and make it interesting.
Yeah.
You know, you're young.
Like work around it.
Yeah. And then you're instantly, I mean, this will most probably be through like mental health first aid, maybe, or maybe another course that can be looked at. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's not just about being, which is me, guys. Like we all know.
That's
we all
me
know.
when I'm hungry.
No, it's your attention that differs. Your hyperactivity is more when you're like excited or happy or looking forward to something. So more so recently, I would say it's like your rugby training. You get excited for it, and that's when you get like, I can't wait, let's go. Like, but when you're hungry and because you forget to eat.
I recently learned that may be linked to ADHD, but I will find out when I get my diagnosis.
But
there's a whole condition. I can't remember what it's called, but basically you can't recognize when you're hungry, which leads to a lot of me being hangry and then being really horrible to my friends. And then they're like, Tolu, have you eaten recently?
I mean, I'm gonna out you here on this one.
No.
Wait, no.
Rude.
No, but this is like a Karen. You've literally told me that sometimes you forget to breathe.
Yeah, I thought that was just a me thing. But apparently that's also maybe an ADHD thing. It's not that I forget to breathe, it's that I forget to breathe deeply. So well, maybe I'm not breathing, I don't know. But basically I'm breathing really shallowly, and then at a certain point my brain goes, I don't think you've been breathing properly, and then I do a massive inhale.
Right.
I didn't realise that was normal.
But, okay, how... I mean, I'm like 99.99% sure that you are going to be diagnosed with
Oh, I'm
ADHD.
99.99999% sure that I'm going to be diagnosed with it as well. But there's always that, like...
Point
Point
0.1%.
1% of uncertainty, because it's hard to talk about this with people who don't have it, because I feel like I need a certain element of like legitimacy.
When I can tell you now, you're the first person I have known
Yeah.
that has, like, I've known you, what, 7 years now? Six
Seven?
years.
No.
6 years. 2015, honey, college.
6 years.
Yep. And it only really came to my attention because we rekindled our love for one another, and spent so much time together. And like,
Yeah.
when you had a shit day at work, you would call, like, and be like, I've had a shit day. Why?
Tell me how long it took you to get your diagnosis.
Do you want the full truth and trauma? Because my one's a little bit like rough patch. So I can't remember when I went to my GP, but I went to my GP after. We're getting real off on this
Let's
date.
just do the bare skeletons. Let's just do like brief.
Let's just say
summary.
we had a really, 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 really traumatic moment that ended up in me having to go to the hospital. And I spoke to a psychiatric nurse, I believe, at like circa 4 a.m. And she's the one who said, right, you need to get a referral.
Yeah.
And I think you may have like and I was like, psst. I know I look like the crazy one because of what I just been did up in here, but no. I would have had that. No, like it was
Like
very
exact
much
same
that.
reaction.
Yeah, like
I don't have it.
They would have seen it when I was young. Like you genuinely
Right?
think that, but
That stuff would be obvious.
so I then went to my GP. Was told the referral would go through.
Yeah.
I waited because I like the way I was kind of got into this realm was like a forcible shove, which I won't go into now because we talk about it another time. But so nothing came of it, and then hit rock bottom again. Did that, went to the hospital, then found out may have ADHD from a psychiatric nurse. So then went back to my GP and was like, yo, I've been waiting. And they were like, oh, no referral letter was made for you. And I had told my GP that I had these thoughts going on in my head and that I was struggling. So, well done. But doesn't matter. I'm still here and I'm still okay, touch wood.
You just touch wood on your head.
Yeah. There's no wood nearby. But I think what I found I think it was maybe another 9 months, like 6 to 9 months after that, and that was October, that I finally got into Oxliers, which is the NHS Mental Health Trust for Bromley, Lewisham and Greenwich boroughs. And the wait list has now gone up to 24 months, which I believe you told me.
I did tell you that.
Yeah, so it was...
I'll elaborate on that during my own story.
So it's kind of... But it's that purgatory.
Yeah.
It's that limbo of...
The waiting time.
I finally have accepted there's something not working normally in my brain. And I just want answers and help now. Because the waiting and the knowing something's wrong, but you don't know what it is, so you can't do anything about it. Like, you're literally like...
I had a very similar experience because we had that conversation. Your comment about me maybe having ADHD in Peckham finally got through to my brain, and then I went to my doctor and I was like, just for the lol, let me do an assessment. And I talked to my GP and not even then. I was with Oxleas at the time. So they sent me the little form that I talked about earlier, straight through, and I completed that. They sent it back and they were like, yeah, you meet the threshold for the criteria to get like a diagnosis. But I had to chase them for that information. They were just like, oh yeah, you're on the wait list. On the wait list for what? I had no idea. So I had to get clarification that I was on the wait list for diagnosis because I had enough of the symptoms that I could be seen by a psychiatrist. And then they told me that the wait list was 2 years long. At which point I was kind of like very stressed out because I had just learnt that all of the stuff I hated about myself and all of the stuff that kind of contributed to my life not going as well as I wanted it to go.
Preach to my choir, bitch.
I now had a solution. There was a route to it. I now knew that...
This is my yellow brick road.
Yeah. I now knew that
like,
all of that shit was linked to a bloody diagnosis. And it went from me feeling relief for knowing that there was a reason why I was doing all of these things to me feeling incredibly frustrated because now I knew what that I wasn't just a weirdo.
Feel it, though.
I realised I wasn't just a weirdo. There was actually reasons why I was doing all of these things.
First of all, may I just interject here and say, we stand weirdos. Be a weirdo. Be unique. Be you. Be true to you. Don't be normal and ordinary. And what is normal, anyways? Anyways, sidebar.
No.
But
just to note, I'm proud to. I was proud to be a weirdo.
I know.
I was very proud to be a weirdo. But finding out that like the negative stuff was linked to an actual thing that I could get help for. I'm doing this a lot. But then I had to wait 2 years for it. Was very kind of like.
I'm sorry.
One of the symptoms of ADHD is that you're impatient, and they wanted me to wait for 2 years. No, ma'am, it's not happening.
You know when you're like, hey, Oxleas, maybe you want to do some research on the areas that you work in, and maybe, just maybe,
helpful.
See about wording the things differently. Because y'all are going to diagnose me, and y'all know that this means I am impatient.
Mm-hmm. Like, you've seen me queuing. I pace. I have no patience.
I mean, you can see me now. I'm fidgeting.
That's not impatience, though.
That's just uncomfortable. And sitting still, because that's the thing. I never had like an informant form. Mm-hmm. So when I forgot about this until just now when we talk about it. I was given an iPad to an ADD, an American form that was pretty much similar, but it was mainly like, out of 10, how likely were you like this at school? So, and then it just became that was it. And then I remember handing it to my psychologist, and she literally went, okay, yep, you have ADHD. Like, it was that simple back then. And I was like, but then it's like, you were like 2 years. I was like, 2 years? I filled it like fully gone.
It's not even a questionnaire. It's the fact that, like, and honestly, I can't really complain because the NHS is overloaded. It was overloaded before COVID, but now it's like crazy. So 2 years, okay, I understand. So I went back to my GP and I was like, are there any other options for me? Can I look at other organisations? And my GP went, like, they came back to me and they said no. So I was like, okay, I'll wait on the wait list. And about 3-4 months later, I was just so frustrated with waiting and struggling at work, knowing that there was a solution from the diagnosis, that I started calling around to like loads of mental health organisations. Yeah. And I went to Mind, which is fantastic. I went to a couple of other ones, and I eventually found Adhd, which is an organisation which kind of provides information and support for people who have ADHD or parents whose children have ADHD. And I called them up and I called their helpline, and literally 2 minutes later, after waiting since November, this is now like March or April, and having gone to my GP to ask for this kind of support, 2 minutes later I had the contact details for a support group, and I had the details for Psychiatry UK, which at the time was able to put you on their wait list to have a diagnosis in a matter of weeks, not years, and then take you through titration, which is getting your medication, and they would charge it all to the NHS, because at that point I was so frustrated I was considering going private. And I was so angry.
That's also a sign of ADHD, impatient, and that you are reckless with money.
Yeah,
because you're impatient.
But like, I was so angry with the fact that I'd gone to my GP and they didn't know any of this information. I had to do all the research myself. I had to find it all out myself.
Do research.
And then, so I went to Psychiatry UK and their website, and I looked up all the information, and there's basically this thing called Right to Choose, where you can decide where you get your treatment. So Psychiatry UK basically gives you a template letter for how to get in touch with your GP to let them know that you'd like to be referred to their organisation to take you through
So they're
your
like,
diagnosis.
here's the loophole.
Here's the loophole that your GP won't tell you about.
Live.
In April, I finally got like a call from Psychiatry UK being like, hey, so we'd like to book you in for an appointment, da, 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 da. And I had a meeting with my manager like 5 minutes after this, so worst timing ever, because I got on the call with him and I was just like still stunned, and then I broke into tears on the call with my manager because I was like, I'm sorry, I just heard that I finally got my diagnosis appointment after like how many months of waiting since November. This was now May.
Yep.
When did I get the news? It was May.
May is when we got the forms.
It was like April, May.
Yeah, I think it was April.
So since from November to April, which to be fair, I could have been on a 2-year waiting list, so it's not that bad. But
still, it's been a while.
Yeah, it was tough waiting.
I'm going to have to stop us here because my sister's got to go, so we need to take some photos of her now.
I have no idea what we were talking about.
Okay, I do. Because when you're having it, I'm together.
Let's talk about my memory problems. That's also an ADHD thing. How fun! What was it?
Glasses, please.
Oh shit, sorry. I just like looking stylish.
She thinks she's just like casually lazing by the pool, you know, in Palm Springs, enjoying a mocktail. Rude.
I'd like a mojito right now. A mock mojito.
A vagina mojito.
You're really good at making mock mojitos.
I know.
I've got some cucumbers in my fridge.
I have the flair.
If you want to come over and make me a mojito. No, but memories.
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 Memories all alone in the moon.
Okay.
We can't.
Conversation. There was this one time where I lost something in my bedroom, which happens every hour. And I said to you, I can't find this certain thing. And because we've been on a video call earlier, you were like, it's on your chest
Headphones.
of drawers.
It was your headphones.
Yeah. You told me it was, and I was like, he's magical.
I saw it in fleeting, like past. But again, it's from me, like for a friend. I'm like.
Okay, now I want to look at what you just looked at.
The paper blue.
Okay.
ADHD.
The other times we've been talking and like a bird has flown by and I'm just like
Yeah.
ADHD.
And Post Sanity loves to film outdoors.
Because fresh air is good for your mental health.
I mean, touche. She just played me. But anyways, memory. What were we talking about? No, that was a play. But no, like when it comes to supporting other people, like you're literally guinea pig for me at the minute because, again, like I said, like I'm sure I know people who have it, but like some people just maybe are ashamed or they just don't know what to do, and they just don't want to admit defeat, if you will. But I feel like the communication and talking about it out loud is key. So like when you're like, oh, like, and we started the call and you're like, I can't find something. And then you like walked around your room and then you found that one thing. And then I saw your headphones in the shop.
Wait, I was trying to find something that I'd lost when you found
And then you were like, I can't find my headphones. I was like, they're on top of the dresser. And you were like,
Hilarious.
how did you know? No, I texted you after we hung up.
You texted
You're like,
me,
I can't find my headphones. And I was like, they're on top of your dresser. You're like, how did you know? I was like, I saw it in Fleeton. Like, my brain, for others,
Perfect. But for yourself, rubbish.
like 2,000,000% for the friends, for the others. For me,
5?
implode it.
5%.
Implode it.
Let's give it a 5%.
It's an implosion.
No, 5%. I think you deserve 5%.
I'm hooked on the word implosion at the moment. It's happened a lot. Anyways,
I can't imagine how
Off topic.
it would work, but yes, off topic.
like you can tell that we had a break. You can tell we had a break because we're now breaking off topic so much. Okay, right. See, notes to help ADHD people remember what they're talking about. Oh yeah. So, what changes have you made since?
Focus. I'm swimming through a sea of concentration. The coffee should have kicked in.
Right, so
I'm
what-
focusing.
Okay. So, what changes have you made to your day-to-day, like, activities, like the way you work, the way you approach work, the way you approach any task in general, like life admin? What changes have you made since you've like come to grasp with the idea that you are more than likely going to be diagnosed with
Well,
ADHD?
It's funny because I already had coping mechanisms in place and I didn't even know about it. And apparently that's one thing that a lot of people with undiagnosed ADHD have, is that they've figured out how to get around certain symptoms. Like, I put every single thing in my calendar. And I've been doing that for like the last 5 years because I would constantly forget about hangouts with friends or appointments.
And the bus stops. That's a really good example.
And what do you mean, making sure I check things before I get off the bus?
Oh, on top of that, you have like the route of the bus
Oh yeah.
on
like-
your phone once you're
But
on
that's-
the bus.
I don't know why I do that.
But that's because you've told me before, you've missed your stop several times. So you have it up and you don't, like, you barely allow yourself to get distracted. Like, especially if you know it's like, okay, I'm on this bus for 10 stops. Like, I've literally witnessed
I
this,
will
people.
check City Mapper every 2 minutes to
Oh.
make sure that I remember what stop I'm supposed to get off at.
If I'm on a new route, like, hands on a new route, that ain't leaving my screen. Because I know that if I go away for even maybe 2 minutes, I could miss my stop
distracted.
easily.
You think you've been distracted for literally like 5 seconds and you've been distracted for 5 minutes.
But it's like, your brain just goes, oh, this useful but useless information, I'm gonna focus on that. And you're like, why? What? What did I do to you today? Why are you coming for me on this day?
That's the
Why?
reason I can't get to sleep some days, because my brain is just focused on one thing and it'll keep repeating it back to me.
But we've also, like, we spoke about how, like, when we're like tired and we accept, I'm gonna go to bed early because I'm tired.
Oh, it never happens.
And you'll be like, laying in bed, and you're like, why did I think this today? And you're like, oh my God.
Every single time I try to be a good adult and go to bed early at like 8, 9 or whatever, so I can
Okay,
get
that's
up.
hella early.
No.
But I'll allow
What
it.
you don't understand though is I'm trying to get into a routine where I go to bed early and I wake up with like 3 hours to spare, have a shower, read a book, have some breakfast, relax into the morning.
I'm sorry,
And then-
who suggested about the shower in the morning
Oh,
to
be
wake you up?
quiet.
Yeah, routine in the morning.
And then my brain, like you said, like parrots stuff at me. Like, it'll tell me, oh, remember that embarrassing thing you did like 5 years ago? Let's think about that. And then I won't get to sleep until 3 a.m.
It's like FOMO, but like fear of forgetting. So it's like FOFO, like fear of forgetting out. Like
Oh, I
anything that is pointless, benign, like you do not need this. Your brain will question you about it when you're calm, quiet, and don't need to concentrate. That's when your brain goes, let's concentrate. And you're like, no.
It's really frustrating though, because it's a common thing with people with ADHD to have insomnia and not be able to get to sleep because their brain is just going. So I have to use sleep aids when I have like really active, like when my brain is really, really active when I'm trying to get to sleep. A lot of the stuff that I do is a coping mechanism that I developed years and years ago. So there's not actually much, like, too many new things that I do. Like the things at work that really help me. Not always, because it depends on the day, depends on how my brain is feeling that day. But sometimes having music on in the background will help, and I'll like sing along to it. Sometimes calling a friend and having them on the phone with me whilst I'm working helps. Literally, it's weird because I'll call you and then I'll be like, okay, we've talked, I'm gonna work now. But
you've been working the entire time.
no, but like that's the thing. Like I've called you so that I can work. I'm actually calling to talk to you.
Yeah, no, I know.
Which is so rude. But like I feel awful for calling you just so you could be in the background while I type. But for some reason, it really, really helps me concentrate when I'm working.
But I think it's the sound of the familiar. So in terms of like, you know my voice, you know my inflections, you know that you're gonna get a crazy show, like a wacky on wild, like hello, blah, blah, blah. So you can be like white noise, like it's just white noise. So
but
then
it's
you can just
white noise,
yeah, it's like
yeah,
and you know that this person like specifically so with me, I can say like, I know that you'll call me and be like, so how are you? And I'm like, oh, she playing me. She's trying to play me like she care about me. No.
Well, I'm at least gonna like let you talk for like 10 minutes before I ignore you.
But at the same time, like, what I don't think you maybe have realised, because you're like, I can't multitask. You fully respond to every single question and every single comment. Yes, you do. There are times when I'm like, and that was a question I asked you, so I expected an answer. Like, that will happen maybe once every 2 or 3 calls that in that specific like scenario. But you actually do respond. And it's because coping mechanism, live on air, guys, coping mechanism teachings. So for me, I am drawn to high pressured,
me too.
like active, doing things, like lots of tasks, lots of blah, blah, blah. Like, you got to do this, you have this to do today, blah, blah. And it's like working in a care home, it's this there, this person needs you now, you've got to do this, oh, can you help me just interpret it, like, and I flourish at that, like working in pubs. Normally people are like, I'm like, hi there,
I have the same thing. I can work really, really well under high pressure situations. Like when I was working in retail and we have like a really, really busy day, like maybe it's a sale on a Saturday or something, and there's 15 people in the queue, and I'm just like fully speeding through all the customers, folding their clothes, having a chat with them at the same time, handling the till, and doing it incredibly fast, and like thriving on that experience. But the thing is with me, I thrive in high pressure situations, but then that's only half the time, and then the other half the time I'm giving a high pressure situation and I freeze. And that's a fucking ADHD. It's so annoying.
This like, you've literally just, I was being all like positive for a moment, and you just hit me with like reality, not negativity, reality. And I'm like the rush is over, and it's like, oh, I've got to do like my normal stuff now, and this will literally be me. I'm going for a vape. And that is because I just need a moment to kind of process what I just did. Because it's kind of like you don't realise you just did all that. Like, you're like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Especially when it's like phone call, this, that. Can you do me a favour? Look. And you're like,
you're like autopilot.
Yeah, and then you're kind of like, who body snatched me?
Is your brain kicking into high gear?
But it's the professional standard that it's like, yes, I could help. Yes, I could do. Yeah. Like, even though most people, neurotypical people who may not like suffer from any form of mental illness, it's like that. It would be like doing this to them, and that would be annoying. But for me and you, even though like it's strange for you, that is like, oh, okay, that's a beat, that's distracting. I can focus. Oh, get it. That is a coping and
having that noise in the background.
It's kind of like survival of the fittest. Your body just goes, you don't know that you got it. I'm gonna help you out. Like, I got you.
Takes over for you.
Yeah, and literally just kind of goes, and it just works it out. Like, the fact that we sat down a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, you have coping mechanisms that you don't even realise you have, and even I didn't realise you had until we sat down and talked about it. And I was like,
oh yeah,
that's a coping mechanism. And you don't, and maybe the like psychiatry UK will sit down and be like, you got coping mechanisms.
Oh, I know which ones I've got, definitely.
But it's more on you. Like, you have coping mechanisms. You can multitask. But you need to be, like, focused on something that you find hella important, but then a person that's also hella important for you to be able to, like, your brain will just go, let's do this. I got this. And that's one thing I don't think, that you or I give ourselves pats on the back for enough is when we do something good. Because every day is hell day. Mm-hmm. When she pipes up, he pipes up, they pipe up, and like really infringe on what you gotta do. And I know recently with work, you've been like, not outing you, but you've had a few, like you said the other day, if I may.
You're going to.
She has no choice.
Just cut it out in post.
Yeah, but no, like you said, oh, I've got 2 more tasks that I missed on my shit. And I was like, 2 tasks, that's gonna be nothing. I'm like, oh, you could do, and you're like, it takes 4 hours. I was like, nope. Clocking out time was 25 minutes ago. Close it down.
That's another thing. Like, feeling the need to overcompensate because your brain is not working throughout the day. Like, the first few months before I built in those coping mechanisms and I built in certain ways to work that helped, it was constantly kind of like working on a task, it taking way longer than it should do, and then me needing to do overtime to make sure I stay on track.
But even that was unpaid overtime.
Yeah, but I felt the compulsion to do it because I wasn't capable of finishing it in the normal time it would have taken a neurotypical person to complete it.
Or what we deem a neurotypical person to be able to achieve it. Because, like, even though we kind of have this, like, us and them, which I don't think it, like, we kind of need it there so that we can explain and be like, yo, hear us. This is just our little segue to remind you that we are being supported by Hear Us, a mental health charity based in Croydon, who actually provide a lot of support and help for people who suffer from mental health in work. So I just wanted to let you know that. And do it in an ADHD style way. You're welcome.
That was a beautiful segue.
Thank you.
Well done.
Me as segues.
High five.
Me as segues. Like, but yeah, so I feel like we should be heard. But it's kind of like, I don't want it to become like you're normal, you're not, like, that's what it kind of feels like sometimes, especially when, with me and my beautiful cocktail up in here, you're always apologizing, you're always making excuses, you're always, and then you kind of want to be like, well, you're like in your head like, why am I apologizing? They're neurotypical. Like, it becomes that because you become envious of what they have.
Yeah, but I feel like the labels are really important because without the knowledge that I may be neurodivergent, I wouldn't have had the courage or the vocabulary to then go to my manager and say, hi, I'm experiencing trouble with concentration, I'm experiencing like elements of anxiety when I'm trying to complete tasks. Here's what's happening, here's what research I'm doing, here's what help I'm getting. And like now my work has been amazing and they're working with me on it.
Oh, your work.
They fully recognise.
They need a freaking medal because I have been blown away with how much they have stepped up. Again, if I may. Again. You're like the fact, I remember you calling me and just said, I'm going to cry. Which you lied, you didn't cry. She doesn't cry.
I do cry.
Just angry tears.
I just schedule it in.
Schedule crying. ADHD. It's in the calendar, so it's got to happen. No, sorry. Like
That's
I remember.
not even a joke. I generally schedule the crying one time.
You are tuned too much all the time at 100.
Well, I didn't have time to cry. I was busy. I was like, I'm going to cry in a week. I've got things to do.
Oh my god, okay. So, I'm really proud of you. But because you called me straight after you'd spoken to Psychiatry UK and then you spoke to your manager and you were like, oh my god. And I was like, whoa. you know, because we're dramatic. We love the dramatic, like, what? And you were like, I just spoke to my manager, and I said, like, so I haven't got the diagnosis yet, but I have applied to get a diagnosis, and it's looking that I may have ADHD. And I remember what you said, it won't be verbatim for what he said, but you said, he said something along the lines of, oh, great, now I know how I can support you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. My manager was like, oh, that's fantastic.
Like, I had tears welled up in my eyes. I didn't need to schedule it in. They just were there. Because, you know, emotional. Me emotional, not you emotional. But, like, to hear someone who I care about and love so much, who is struggling and having to come to terms with having something that they are still waiting to get confirmation of, even though it is real, that restored my faith a little bit in managers, because my manager at the pub, it will be unnamed, would literally, like, to the point my ADHD created coping mechanisms for him. Like, he would be like, oh, can you tell Lala to go and bring that thing from the Lala, and go, like, literally would say that, and I'd be like, yes, I will get so-and-so to go to this, to get that, and replace, like...
So he's just very unhelpful.
He's so unhelpful. He thinks you're a machine, so that when one person is working 2 floors in a restaurant that is fully booked, and he's like, someone come on the bar, and you look at him with murder, like, I'm going to murder you if you come near me with this plate of mashed potatoes, that he would be like, oh, well, someone's a bitchy. And it's like, oh my God, like, you have no idea of the stress you've put me under because you haven't planned it properly. Second of all, where have you been all shift, leaving all the staff to themselves? And you won't make me a supervisor. That's just a bit shade, but...
So what I'm getting from you here is that, like, you needed structure from your manager.
I needed support.
Yeah.
Like, I see you. I see what is happening. To the point that when I had my exit interview, that manager was then made to go on a mental health first aid course.
Wow.
Yeah, that is when HR is doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. When HR are listening and going, right, how can we improve and how can this not happen again?
Yeah, because I think that may be the case for a lot of people with mental health issues or with ADHD. Their managers don't actually know how to work with them. So they need to be trained on that. But yeah, like, I'm glad they actually made him do a course.
I don't hate people. I dislike people a lot. I disliked him a lot because of the hell he put me through in a job that paid me pittance. But the thought of him having to go on that course just made me go, someone's life will be made easier by him having to do that. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, so be it. I love being a guinea pig. So guinea pig me up, Scotty. Like, what else can you do? Like,
on a t-shirt.
I mean, that could be a Post Sanity shirt. Donate and find out how you can get your very own Post Sanity. Anyway. Welcome back to Kyle and Tolu. That was actually really good. Literally. Hi, ADHD getting you down. Well, why don't you come on over to the Kyle and Tolu podcast, where we talk about ADHD, being homosexual, bisexual, queer community, and having ADHD.
Neurodivergent.
Woo, neurodivergent. Can I get a neurodivergent? Logs. Anyways, and welcome back to Kyle and Tolu. What's it like in the ADHD brain space? Because it's your brain space.
No, you call it
Mind shell.
Mind shell. I still can't get over that.
Because I'm a Cancerian, and you said brain space is trademark, so I respect your rules and regulations.
I use my brain space to, like, I don't know, as a metaphor for, like, the fact that my thought process is very... Stop that. My thought process is very non-linear, so...
Can I just talk about how that was the perfect segue into our last and final question?
Go ahead.
What advice can you give to other people who may be waiting for a diagnosis right now, or who maybe are brand spanking new to a diagnosis of ADHD, or maybe they don't know they have it, but they've kind of done some research like yourself, and they've discovered our wonderful video and you've given so much great advice and experience today. So first of all, thank you for that. I cannot begin to tell you how, if I back when had this available for me, it would have made me not feel so alone. Mm-hmm. And again, like I said about the guinea pig thing, I'm glad that I could be the guinea pig for you, so that I went through hell. So then I knew, like, when you were going through it, I was like, oh bitch, you ain't gonna be alone.
Remember that time I broke into tears in the shopping centre?
Oh, and I fully just was like, and it's not happening, let's go outside, we're gonna go here, I'm gonna stand in the corner, I'm gonna breathe.
Very calm.
But it's things like that, like, so, I mean, we'll start with my advice, and I think one and yours, because you're still in it, you're still going through it.
Yeah.
In my experience, ironically, try and breathe. Remember, you can't do it all.
That's definitely very good advice.
There will be days where it is frustrating, and there will be days where you feel like you've done absolutely nothing, but you would have actually done stuff. And I think that's one thing you and I, we do a lot, is the things we didn't do, we focus on. Mm-hmm. Because to us, that's a failure when we could have done that. But unfortunately, there's something that does get in the way. That takes a lot of energy to bring back round. Mm-hmm. Examples are in this video, you've seen it. And this is like a joyous way, but those segues, those segments that happen are real in our lives, in our day-to-day lives. And it really is a hindrance. It's something we make light of, because if you don't laugh, you cry. And so yeah, so my advice is try not to, don't beat yourself up so much. Breathe. And you can't do it all. You're a human. It's not a machine, a human. So, yeah. And obviously, that was directed to you as well. But I've told you this all the time.
Oh, definitely. You're very, very encouraging. You're always telling me that, like, I need to recognise what good stuff I've done and not focus on the negatives, which is a good piece of advice. I definitely recommend
But
that.
you can do that for other people, but can you do it to yourself? No.
Of course I can. Sometimes.
I can't. That's why, like, in this moment, I'm like, I'm going to tell everyone, be really good, breathe. And I'm like,
no,
like,
that's
for
okay.
myself.
You can tell other people that they need to be positive, and I'll cheerlead you. It's just pay it forward.
Give me a T, give me a, sorry, you asked for it, yeah. Sorry.
But like I think the advice I would give would be do your research and know your rights, because unfortunately, even though your GPs are kind of trying to do their hardest to help you, they're not specialists in what you're going through, so they may not be able to give you the information you need straight away. So I would definitely go to organisations such as Adhd, which can give you information. They have a support group.
Which you found really helpful,
on a weekly basis. I found that incredibly helpful to talk to people who were going through something very, very similar, or who had gone through that.
And that was sorry to interrupt, that was a women's
Yeah, it was a women's support group, but they also have like an adult support group, and they have a parental support group. They have support groups for everybody, but definitely find a support group, find somebody who has experienced what you're going through, and talk to somebody about it, because it takes such a pressure off knowing that you're not alone in it, and that like you can talk to people who have experienced what you've experienced. I was feeling very, very impatient, but it was nice being able to hear stories from other people who were like, oh yeah, I also had trouble at work.
I just need to interject. Also, you already know about this. When you're going through the process and filling in the forms, and if you have an informant form, do not read the examples as gospel and things that you should change about yourself. They are literally examples. They are literally examples of what that person has noticed in you, so that you can be given the right diagnosis and the right medication, etc., etc., etc. Because that's one thing.
I just realised I wasn't breathing. Sorry.
But yeah, so I just want to say that in that moment, because we've had that.
I think it's good to recognise those things, though. Because once you mentioned that in my informant report, I did notice that I was spending a lot of the day being fixated on Googling definitions for words. So I'm like, okay, if I notice I'm about to do it, do I need to Google this definition? No. So I'm going to leave it.
But at the same time, like, you're fascinated by words. Like, that's something you love. So that, like, I'm like, maybe let's focus on, like, the fact that you delay things and you don't finish them. Let's look at that one.
No, I'd rather focus on the Google thing.
Exactly.
Now, back to my advice. Yeah, definitely do your research. Learn about the condition. Learn about how to talk about it with other people, because a lot of people don't understand what ADHD actually entails. And from my experience, will tell you don't have ADHD because they're thinking of a stereotype. And I didn't know, but I didn't think I had ADHD either. I was like, I don't have ADHD because I was thinking of that stereotype. So,
I mean, I got on my soapbox.
The ignorance is ingrained. You can't really help it. But you can educate yourself and educate other people that are close to you to help them know that it's not you being lazy. It's not you. It's not you being lazy. It's actually like there's a reason why you can't achieve certain things.
It's not being lazy. It's being overly active. Because you're going, right, I'm going to start this one. Oh, I need to start that one. Oh, I need to do this one. Rather than going, right, this task is done. This task is done. You then, like, all the fingers in all the pies. So then you actually don't finish.
I'm such a jack of all trades. I've started how many languages that I've never completed.
Jack of all trades
Master
and
of
a master of none. But a jack of all trades is better than a master of one. Remember the positive. Focus on the That's my advice. Focus on the positive. You're beautiful. You're wonderful. You're a human person. And we all love you. So yeah. Sorry.
Tangent number 4.
419.
Yeah, so do your research, learn about the condition, know your rights, your right to choose where you get your treatment. Definitely look into Psychiatry UK, they're amazing.
Links will be provided below.
Yeah. And then look for a support group. And be patient with yourself, I would say, because it's tough to digest, and it's tough to realize that it's had such an impact on your life. But there are people out there who will like help you through the whole situation.
Just like cry for help, like actually cry for help. Like, don't feel like I shouldn't because maybe they're fit. No, just say, look, I'm struggling. I want to talk about this. Can we just have 15? I mean, I do this all the time with the boys. I'm like, hi guys, can we just have like a 30-minute thing about this task we've got to do? Fully knowing well that I'm going to then ADHD the crap out of it. Mm-hmm. And Josh and Ben, fully willing and know this, will be like, yeah, sure, I'll jump on. Josh did this literally the other day. He was like, yeah, let me just get a coffee and I'll be right with you. And I was like, that's a sign of he knows he's going to have a Kyle conversation. Yay! But I didn't realize that people around me also make allowances like that. Like, I'll say, oh, I only need like 10 minutes. Ben will be on Discord with me for 3 hours helping me edit my short film that I said I would do a year ago.
See, I think that's the thing as well. Like, communication is really, really key. Because, I know the situation is not necessarily the same for a lot of people, but me communicating with my manager is one thing that I'm going to be eternally grateful for, because that then gave us the space to work with each other. Communicating with your family and having that understanding of what is going on. And then, because with you, I know that if you're distracted and I'm talking, but it's about something serious, I can then go to you, it's very serious, I need to concentrate. I won't get annoyed though, because I know you're having trouble concentrating.
Whereas before...
No, never before. I always
you were
knew.
just like...
No, I always knew. I'll get annoyed, but I'll know that it's not your fault. So I'll just be like, can you concentrate, please? And you'll be like, okay, yes.
Well, no, you'd actually be like, Kyle, this is very important, can you? And I'll be like, oh, sorry, yep, I'm here. And then it's like, and the blinkers are on.
Yeah.
Like,
But like, if you don't tell somebody that the reason you're doing certain things that may annoy them is because of ADHD, they'll never know.
Okay.
So that's important as well.
And yeah, I agree. I have one. You know the attention song?
No.
But no melody.
I'm not singing that.
We're not singing it. If you want to be somebody and you want to go somewhere,
We need to do that again. Sorry, I need to get over my
hatefulness. I want to say thank you so much for first of all being my friend. Second of all, having the patience.
Thank me for that.
I'm allowed to.
No, you're not.
I'm allowed to.
No, you're
It's my TV show. Kyle and Tolu chats coming this fall. No, I'm
We
joking.
should get guests on. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, thank you for one being my friend and for having the patience and understanding with me. I pay it back in kind. So we're cool. We're good. We're starting to rain, so we've got to wrap this up a little bit quicker. Thank you for being brave enough and for agreeing to do this. This, like I said, what I went through has hopefully helped you, and what you've gone through will hopefully help someone. So that's amazing. That's important. Communication is key. And thank you, Tolu. But if you want to be somebody,
If you want to go somewhere,
you better wake up.
pay attention.
Thank you, guys. Donate, please, or share. Let them know. Internum Daemonium, short film. Please help us make it. Love y'all. Bye.
Oh, such an awkward ending.
That's going right in there.
That will be the ending.
I remember the moments, like clear as day, of when the concept of Internum Daemonium came into my brain. I'm flicking through social media, and there was a video of Lady Gaga talking about how there's only one thing in the entire world that is free and will not harm anyone, and that's kindness. And then scroll a little bit further down the news feed, and there's Miss Havisham cups, where you have a cup of tea, and when you drink it, it reveals a message: kindly choke and fuck off. It really played and hit home with me about my own inner demon, my own Belial. And in that moment, I had this personify the demon. Give that evil, that thing that's sitting there waiting and learning and really knows you inside and out to go and hit you so hard that it knocks you for six, which is what my glorious brain does to me every single day. Hello everyone, my name is Kyle. I am a co-founder and co-director of Post Sanity, and I am the writer and director of the short film Internum Daemonium. It explores the personification of the inner demon voice that people who suffer from mental illness have. Kind of like the inner monologue, but it's the one that is negative, that bullies you and pushes you down. Post Sanity have been extremely lucky with support for this campaign. I myself have been extremely humbled, awed and ecstatic that a mental health charity, Hear Us, which is based in Croydon, have agreed to support us and help us raise mental health awareness within our campaign, but also to help us raise the fundings that we need for Internum Daemonium. They are a fantastic charity who really do provide the voice for people who can't find their voice with mental health. Payment in kind, people, let's give them some love, let's get their name out there too, so that they can really just have an even bigger platform to be able to support even more people. So please show them some love. To say thank you for your donations, we've really honed in on creating a unique experience for you guys to say thank you from us. The ways we've done this is through the perks. We're being very carbon conscious of every step of the way, so we're making sure we are upcycling and not buying new, to ensure that our carbon footprint is not affecting the world, and also giving you a unique experience by having an upcycled shirt with a unique print attached, just for you guys. We've got original pieces of artwork, digital form or physical form. We have got a wonderful group of volunteers who have been donating their own unique pieces of art to provide to you beautiful people should you donate. For a full list of all the perks, please go to the Indiegogo page for us. They will be there for you to choose and choose. For the campaign here on Indiegogo, we are aiming for raising £5,000. We will then be going to the BFI short film funding and applying for the rest there to make this glorious film. So please, please, please donate if you can and share the campaign. That makes all the difference. So we can say thank you guys. Because we won't be able to make this film without you, and we want to make sure you feel you're a part of this, which you are.